Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Unstuck Leader Series. I'm Nadia Ramtran, the President and CEO of NRNY Consulting. I'm super excited to have our special guest today, Mahmoud, with us. And I can't wait to hear him share his stuck to unstuck story. But before we begin, Mahmoud, can you just share a little bit about yourself, what you're up to in this world?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, my name is Mahmoud. A little bit about myself. I always like to say I'm human first. I like to go back to that just to remind everyone of our similarities. Though our differences do make us who we are and they make us important, we are all still human, and we seem to be losing a sense of that humanity over and over again. So I'm human first. I'm an Egyptian immigrant. I live in New York at the moment, and kind of the last few years I've been involved in the social entrepreneurship space, starting a company focused on food delivery for food trucks, and then now working in the mental health space for the last few years, with a big focus on empowering young people to flourish through their mental, emotional, and social needs. And so that stemmed from personal story around struggle, which I'll be happy to go into a little bit later. But that's what I've been up to, is trying to build this company and try to reach as many young people as possible through mental health education.
Awesome. That sounds wonderful. And please share with us your stuck to unstuck story.
For this question, I struggled to figure out which part of my story I wanted to share, but I think the part I want to focus on is this was, I guess this was maybe when I was transitioning from high school to college, and I had just graduated high school. And for the first time since I came to the US from Egypt, my home country, my family decided to go back. And we went back, and I was so excited. I spent a month there. And at the end, towards the month, planning my trip back, I found that I was not able to leave the country. So I ended up getting stuck in Egypt for about 4 months. And I already have plans to go to college. And so I was literally stuck, to talk about the unstuck. I was literally, it's not even like a figure of speech. I was literally stuck. Um, and I missed my first semester of college, which, as a high school student, kind of really excited about going to college and moving out was like a big deal to miss it. And that, I think, like put me through some really rough, like emotional, mental stuff, but also just made me feel like I was really behind. Like all of my friends started college, everyone's posting, their snaps of college, they're partying, they're having fun, they're in class, they're learning. And so anyway, I ended up coming back, and I essentially didn't just miss the first semester, I missed the whole year. And I was like, for a moment, I was stuck like here when I came back, and I was mentally, I was just not sure of what to do. And I guess I had a few options, and one of them was just kind of give up on the college process and be like, well, if it didn't work out now, and I had so many of these thoughts, then maybe I should, just get a whatever job and do something, temporarily. But the one I ended up going with was reaching out to my connections, my network. And I was 17, so I didn't really have a network per se, but I had met people, and I felt like these people might be able to help me. And these people were in positions where I wanted to be. So one of them was the executive director of a nonprofit called Virtual Enterprise International. And I just had reached out to her. She had met me when I was in high school. And they were really impressed with me because I was impressive. Like I did things, like I worked hard, I showed up, and I showed people that I was there to focus. And so what I'm referring to right now is a business class that I did in high school. So I met up with her and I told her my story, and she said, what do you like? So you're stuck, you don't know what to do. How about you come work with us like the next Monday? And so at 17, I found myself a job, and I started working for them full time for the rest of that year, on to the next year for the second semester of college. And so I was working full time, then started getting involved with the startup, and slowly started applying to schools again. Did a summer program with Google, started coding there, and then started college in the fall of the next year. And I guess, there's so many other stories I could have shared, but this one was such a defining moment that kind of like helped build my character and helped define the way I dealt with challenges in the future, that it really laid the ground for everything else that I ended up accomplishing in college and now out of college. And I think that I thank my past self for that all the time. I'm like, you are a genius. I don't think we do that enough. It sounds like what do people say? What is that word? It sounds like a little egotistical, but I'm so proud of my younger self. I'm like, you are the man, bro.
And so I think that's a really great story. And as you transition from high school and then wanting to go to college, but then physically stuck in another part of the world, you know, what was there a specific thought that really pushed you and supported you with thinking outside of the box? One, thinking through, well, who do I know who do I get in touch with to get the support that I need to succeed? And so, did you also, what types of support did you get from your family? What was their response to you not like immediately jumping back into school
Yep.
and, getting a full time job? What was that experience like?
So I had a mentor that for my high school. You know, in high school, how we always have that one teacher
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know. I think most people have that one teacher that just like
Yeah.
resonates with them, is like their supporter. You just love them. You have that relationship. And for me, my high school business teacher, his name was Mr. Young, and I mean, we're such good friends now, and he's still my mentor, still supports me so much. Um, I think we had a few conversations when I was in Egypt and when we came back. I mean, I definitely also talked to my parents and my family, and I mean, overall, they were so supportive. I mean, no one was like, coming. I mean, they were always asking questions like, what now?" As they should. But everyone was supportive, and I mean, I don't remember exactly if, for example, Mr. Young or my parents had told me, "Oh, you should reach out to people." Maybe it came out of one of those conversations, but what I do remember is feeling supported, and that feeling of community for people to say, "Hey, like, even though it seems like, even though you think that you messed up and that your life is all like in shambles and it's all dark and it's you're missing the most important part of your life right now, college. It's been building up for this like since you were freaking 2 years old. Everyone's like, you got to go to college. Even all that is happening, like we still believe in you. Like you can do it. You know, and people shared stories with me. People shared stories about people taking gap years. People shared all that type of stuff, and I didn't feel like it was right, but I think I eventually just bought in. And then when I started working, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like I'm actually getting experience now, interacting and working with a company that I loved and with people that I loved, and they literally like changed my life. So in a way, it was like a mix of serendipity and luck, and I mean, also of course me reaching out. So that's like the push to be able to create your own luck. Um, yeah. So I think that support was it was instrumental.
And what, I've often found that leadership is not, defined by like titles, but how you're showing up in this world, how you're influencing others. What would
Absolutely.
you say are your leadership skills or styles or styles?
Mm, yeah, great question. I think at the core of leadership is really serving, and I mean, like you said, it's never a title. You might be lucky to have the title and responsibility to lead a group of people, and literally you have to do things to fulfill that requirement. But even in that position, at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is you're trying to serve the needs of the people that are working with you, working for you, people on your team. And so what that looks like practically is, sitting and understanding like who are you working with? What is their life stories? What are their personalities like? How do they work best? When do they feel like they're not valued at work? And so whether as a manager or not a manager, that applies so much. Like even if it's colleagues, it's like going out of your way to be like, I want to have coffee, I want to have lunch with you, even if it's virtually, and trying to understand them so that you can serve them. And so sometimes people will call it like butt kissing, or like you're overdoing it, or whatever. I mean, people call it 1,000 things. I don't know where it stems from. For some people, it's insecurity. For some people, it's like it never happened to them, so they find it weird. But I think at the core of leadership, when you're serving other people, you're making sure their needs are met. You're making sure that they're supported to do their best work. It just all comes back to you. like it all comes back in like a karma type of way. You do good by people, people do good by you. So if you're leading a group of people, you are constantly trying to understand how to serve them better. You're working for them. When you lead a group of people, you are the person working for that group of people, and you're constantly trying to figure out how to be a better support to them. And so it's not being a better boss, it's not being a better, you know, X word. It's yeah, I mean, and the last thing I would say, it's really leading by example as well. So it's so easy to like say 1,000 things to people and try to motivate people, and it's, I mean, like people say many things, and this applies to everything, like parenting, it applies to friendships. The best way to teach people or to inspire people is to do and to show them instead of telling them. And so if you're telling your people, whether your colleagues or you're leading a group, if you're telling them like, hey, I think we all need to like take care of ourselves because this pandemic, it's crazy. I know we're all like, you know, we all need to take care of our mental health, but you're like working 18-hour days and you're like telling everyone how stressed you are, blah, blah, blah. It will say a lot more about you, um, based on what you're doing rather than what you're saying. And people are not going to want to follow that. So that's really, I think that's extremely important.
So you touched on a couple of different points. So I'll ask two final questions. So the first is, what drives you to be of service? Is there a personal experience that's connected to like your why
Mm.
to be of service to others? And then the second question is, what do you do for self care?
Uh, Service is, I think it's because I've experienced it from really amazing leaders, um, that I've been lucky to work with, and I've seen firsthand what it's like for someone to actually care about you as a human being and be like, how are you doing, like, you know, and to start with a place of empathy and start with a place of love and understanding instead of assumptions, and
Yeah.
instead of, you know, blaming. And there's just, once you go through enough experiences, like I've done like 5 or 6 internships. I've like worked with so many teams, like startups and clubs on campus and projects, you know, in college and now post college. And over time, you just see patterns. And one of the patterns that I consistently saw is the greatest leaders who, not in the sense that they made you feel welcome and they created space for you, because that's important to feel that. You and I mean, research shows that when people feel that way, they work harder and you have better team culture. But also, they consistently delivered better results. They were actually better in moving the needle forward on a project, on a business, on a goal, and I think that shows. And I took from that. I mean, I am like the I've collected so much from other people, and you know, the people that I've been lucky to work with, both ways. I've learned just as much from people who were not good leaders as much as I have from people who were good leaders. And those people who are not like great leaders or good leaders, they a lot of them taught me what not to do, and I took that and I'm like, okay. And I don't blame anyone. And I mean, people. There's 1,000 things, you know, going on in people's lives. I'm super empathetic, super understanding, and so when someone is not doing a good job, I try to notice it and I take away from it. And of course, like if I can give feedback, I always do. Um, but you know, holding grudges and talking bad about people, like, and I don't like when people do that. It's like, oh, this was the worst boss, and you know, my worst boss, blah blah blah. I mean, I'm being very generic. It doesn't apply to a lot of other situations,
Right.
but I think we have to be more understanding in general.
Agreed. Agreed. And what do you do for self care?
Oh, I do. I try to do a lot of things, and I try to switch it up a lot. The most consistent thing right now is routines, and so I have a morning routine, a night routine, and so for example, my morning routine is consists of like no social media, um, jumping right out of bed because I know sometimes like I'll wake up and if I grab my phone, like it's a horrible day. I just know it's a horrible day. I'm gonna be in bed for like 30 minutes, 1 hour, maybe an hour and a half, two. It
Yeah.
just what a horrible start. So yeah, I mean, and then I do the basics, cleanliness, stuff like that. Eat breakfast, drink tea, and all of that. I just try to do it with as little distraction as possible and as little thought as possible. And so the little thought as possible is so important in this situation for me, because my brain sometimes tends to really overthink things. And when I wake up in the morning, like most days, I'm extremely anxious and I'm in like a place where I think about everything going wrong, and I just have a horrible feeling. And I'm like, uh, but I do know that I can get rid of that by doing the things that I know make me feel better. And so I try not to overthink any of these things. Like I'm like a robot in the morning. I just do this and then I do this. I don't think about any of it. I do reflect on whether I need to make changes to my routine, but I don't think about it while I'm doing it. I just try to do it. And that's, you need to know that when you're in life. Like you need to know when it's time to think and when it's time to just do, when it's time to reflect. So I do that. I work out. I try to work out almost every day. I think that's like cornerstone to like, mental, emotional health, is connecting it directly with physical health. What you eat, how you treat your body, that directly impacts how you feel and how you think. So I try to eat healthy. I try to do all that stuff. And then, of course, I mean, I do other stuff as well. Like I always make sure I'm learning something. So whether it's like podcasts or trying to read, which I do less of, I try to do more interactive media and learning from podcasts and articles and stuff like that. Um, I think the last thing is like family time for me, family and friends. I try to balance that with um, making sure I'm not like overwhelming myself. And
Right.
so if I'm doing work, I'm doing work, but I also need to spend time with my family. I love them, and then squeeze a few friends time in there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all those wonderful golden nuggets. I know that I took away a lot, especially when you were just sharing your morning routine. I noticed that I also, every morning I wake up, I'm anxious. I'm already thinking about what needs to be done. And I'm always thinking about the future, right? And I think that's what makes me anxious the most, and always trying to role play in my mind and make up these scenarios and how it's going to either start or end.
Yep.
So I think it's really important to do things with very little thought, and just I think that is like the most present anyone can be. It's just doing the thing that needs to be done without overthinking. So thank you so much for sharing that, your stories. And just to end, as I always do, the table topics um, on the series. So this theme today is Destination Anywhere. And like I share with all my guests, I don't go through these cards beforehand, so I have no idea which card I'm going to
Good.
choose. So let's choose a card now. All right. Oh, this is a good question. What's the most beautiful place you've ever seen?
Hmm. Uh, that's a great question. Do I have to pick one? Can it be two or just one? One,
Pick
just
two.
one? We said just one?
No, you could pick two. That's fine.
Okay, two. Okay, great. Wonderful. I love it. Um no particular order. I was in Nepal like 2 years ago, and
Oh,
I mean, saw the most gorgeous views when I was trekking of the Annapurnas, I think that's what it was called, the Annapurna Mountains. And that was like one of the most beautiful. We woke up like really early. I mean, it was like a 4 day trek, so we saw a lot of different views, so a lot of beautiful views. But at like kind of the highest point that we were able to go was just like amazing. The other place was, I would say, there's plenty of places. I guess I would say in Dubai, I went to actually it wasn't in Dubai, it was in Abu Dhabi, which is another city in United Arab Emirates. There's a mosque there called the Sheikh Zayed Mosque, and it is one of the most beautiful mosques I had ever seen. It's like amazing. Um, Sorry about that. Yeah. Anyway, those are the two places. Yeah.
awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. And before we end our time together today, can you share with everyone what you're working on? What are you up to in this world, and what do you want them to know?
Mm. Yeah. So right now, I am focused on doing a lot of speaking engagements. So I specifically am looking for companies, schools, community organizations, groups of people, startups that are interested in bringing me to support them in different ways around topics including social entrepreneurship and startups, business development. But really, my biggest focus is mental health, of course. Um, and yeah, that's a big thing I'm focused on at the moment. I'm taking a break from my startup with Floramind um, till the end of the year. I decided that it was something that I needed like a month ago.
Mhm.
And I think it was a really tough decision to make, but it was one that um, I think it's one of those things where, like I tell everyone to take care of themselves and to take a break when they need it. And so for me, it was like so hard, but I was like, I can't be like a walking contradiction.
Yeah.
I really thought about it and I need this break. So I'm on a break. And so that's why I'm doing like casual speaking engagements, but I've been really focused on myself lately and trying to figure out different ideas that I've been trying to unpack internally and my health and stuff like that. So it's been good, but yeah, you can reach out to me anywhere. I'm everywhere online. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok ish. I just have an account. There's no picture. I just follow people there. Yeah, you can hit me up. Let's chop it up.
Great. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I hope to have you on here again in the future. And to everyone watching this, thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you.